What does your business stand for? If you can't answer, that's a problem.
Your core values are your company's compass. Without them, you risk losing direction.
Today, we're showing you how to define those core values and putting them into action. Let's dive in. Today, we're talking about core values, right?
Yes, we are.
I think I think when we started way back, started way back again. If you know our story, we didn't really set out, right, to have
We did
this
not.
business, and so even vision and mission, we didn't have anything, right?
We didn't have a vision and we didn't have a mission. Period. That's the
It wasn't written anywhere, but we did have a vision.
I mean, we eventually did. Like, I feel like it, as far as visions and missions grow, we started, but we didn't really set out to say, to be the biggest, outsourcing company in the Philippines in 5 years' time, something like that. We had one probably, but it was it was maybe like an unspoken, what's our vision?
But then again, so we started with that first. So after a few years, we started with the vision mission, but then we didn't actually sit down and come up with our core values. And I think at that point, what I realized is at that point, we're already, I think, 4 or 5 years in the business.
Yes.
And I felt like there was already something in there. It's just that we didn't sit down and put them into words. So what happened with us was that it was already happening before we even actually set out to stand for those core values. But Franz, what do you think what's the importance of core values for your companies?
Well, so I think the only reason that we didn't crumble and fall when we said that we had core values in the beginning that wasn't expressly written down, because the majority of the management and the day-to-day operations was managed strictly between the two of us, and the two of us, as you say, are aligned, right? So importance wise, I feel like the bigger a company grows, the bigger in scale, the more that you now have to translate the values and mission on paper, clearly defined, so that the whole organization is aligned, right? So you can't say, let's push for more sales this year, and then the organization thinks the total other way and say, focus on customer care or retention, right? That's so people will be doing different things and trying to achieve different goals. And while they're both good goals for the company, if they're not aligned, then that's a problem.
Yeah, I think just to second that, defining your core values teaches you how to do things and what things to prioritize for.
Yes, exactly.
What things to prioritize. I think that's the number one thing that I noticed with us is after we sat down and we'll talk about how it actually came about with Virtua. After we sat down and had those values and actually placed them on the website and everything, all of the other stuff that we've been doing, I feel like we had some sort of direction, like more of a direction.
Like we knew what we were doing.
Yeah. Partly, right? But no. Like we had a direction. Like when we do our decision making, I feel like everyone understands why we're making those decisions.
XY decisions.
And it's
exactly.
mostly because and it's mostly because everyone set out these are our values, and then we presented it to everyone. Even the vendors that we have, we presented our values. Do you remember with Attorney De Castro?
Yes. Oh, I do remember that. I do remember that.
Yeah.
The time when people say, "Oh, can you tell me a little bit about Virtua?" And then we were, before that, we were more like, Virtua is this, Virtua is that. But now that you have, something to look forward to, it's like we're talking about Virtua and what we're aiming to do. I do remember that. But you do a much better job of it.
Yeah.
Not to mention, hey, No,
I think Attorney De Castro was really impressed with us just because we had the same. So one of our core values in
uh-huh.
Virtua is growth. Which
Yes.
is personal development along those lines, and so our lawyers was actually very happy to hear that because that's also one of their values.
Their current
So you
values.
see, even with the
Yeah.
suppliers, even with the vendors or the suppliers that we have, we try as much as possible to have people that at least have the same values as us, and these are things that behind closed doors, these are things that during decision making sometimes form a debate, right? I don't know if you remember when we were, one of our values is inclusivity as well. We were talking about, so if one of our customers, one of our
Yes.
clients wasn't for inclusivity, what happens then? And so we'll dive into that. We'll dive into that in a little bit here,
Yes.
a little bit here. But let me first off tell you a story first of how it came about with us, because I think
Yes.
most
Also,
companies didn't say. Go ahead.
no, no, no. I am all for the story. I imagine um this is something that I might be familiar with, but also have you take the time to notice how
We're
coordinated we
matching.
are. It's one of
We
so
did
so
not talk about
just
this.
for everybody out there, we don't really say this is what you're wearing. Maybe somewhere down the line, that's something that we should be doing. But it's kind of scary to think this is what you
and
wore.
and it's virtual colors.
And it's virtual scholars. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Why not? Why not? Okay, but I'm ready for story time. I'm ready for story time.
Um, So earlier I mentioned that, when we set out, and if you've been listening to our episodes, especially if you've been a fan of the outsourcing and more episodes, we mentioned that our story happened, like virtual happened, like it fell
On
onto
our
our laps,
laps.
right? On our laps. There you go. Thank you so much. Yeah, it fell on our laps. And so it just happened. We're just, okay, you need a team? We'll go ahead and do a team. And then a few years after, I think 4 or 5 years, actually, yeah, we sat down. Well, our friends, our marketing people helped us narrow down our vision mission. And then it was only even like a year after where we actually had core values and placed them on our website. And during that time, between the vision and mission and then the core values, what happened was we were already a growing team. I think we're already nearing 100 at that point.
5 years?
If I'm not mistaken, around that
Yes,
number.
that was around that
And
time.
yeah, and so at that point, I felt like the culture already existed, the values already existed, and so it was high time to just put them down on paper. And how we did that was we sent out a survey to everyone, to all employees, even if you're doing the accounts, you're working internal. We set out a survey for all of the employees, and it had 6 questions. The first question was, well, it was one question asked 3 times, and then 3 more questions after that. The first question was,
3 ways.
what do we stand for? Yeah, what's unique about Virtua? What do you like most about working for Virtua? And then the last 3 was all the negative side of it. And the reason why we ask in that survey both sides, like the what do you want us to be, as well as what you don't want us to be, just so we can make sure that we know what we want, like that it's clear. It gives you more clarity because okay, this is up until here. Like even if you want work and life balance, like, right,
Yeah. No,
whatever it is.
you know what's important, just in case. And I understand the
Mhm.
story part because you're saying up until what? Oddly enough, the more that you grow, what it is not enough of a definition. You have to also clearly
Mhm.
define what it is not, because it's like I want to be fun but not slutty, or you want to be you know I want to be
Yeah.
I want to have a party, but I don't want to wreck at by the end of the night. So like
Yeah.
this is the boundaries of who we are supposed to be, which, as you said earlier, clearly defined.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And so after we did that survey, what happened next was in our strategic planning, I think for that year, we all sat down, Francis, me, well, Francis in London, me and all of the leaders, HR, ops, I think at that point, IT was also there. We all sat down and finance. We all sat down and look at all of the survey answers and then looked for common themes.
Mm-hmm.
And once we were able to identify all of the common themes, that's where it hit us. Because the answers from this survey are coming from everyone. At that point, Francis and I didn't feel like it was going to be a top-down decision. We felt like everyone already knew what we stand for, and so we just really wanted to get their input from there.
You're not wrong. I think a lot of times when we decided organization, then I mean there some things have to be a top-down decision. Marching orders,
Yeah,
for example, saying what the general direction is, but you can't just say go that way, right? And expect everybody to say, okay, go that way. There was that funny joke I heard one time when somebody said like, walk this way, and then started walking this way, and then everybody started
Yeah.
walking the same way.
I know this joke.
Yeah, but because sometimes people do tend to think different things. You can be in a room of 10 very, very smart people. People will interpret things differently, right? So if you say let's go left, like the question is how to go left, how fast to go left, how hard to go left, or do you take your time, go hard, go all in, or just baby steps, right? You realize that's there's the more that you talk now, it's the same reason why I now refuse to talk to people, because I realize everything that you say can be interpreted so many different ways, as opposed to just the two of us.
So,
Because
so you just gave up and don't want to talk to people?
I just stopped talking. but but isn't it that kind of important? Because your group now, right? Your group now is supposed to be carrying, for lack of better terms, your will or the will of the company, right? And you
Yeah.
have to be sure that they understand it. You want to be sure that when you say that the approach is tsunami like you did the butterfly step. Yeah, you did the butterfly step, but it echoes in bigger waves, like much bigger than you could actually have done it with your own two hands. Like, I'd like to think of it that way, that I couldn't have made that strong of an impact by myself, because it was the other people who carried the will forward. I thank you. Wow.
Actually, I was going to say very well said. Like, very well said.
Well, I know when I said something very well, so just to save you the trouble.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I was thinking. Anyway, go on.
No. So yeah, because as the company grows, it's not only going to be you who's going to be doing everything. It's going
Exactly.
to be a team effort, right? Like that. That's what management is defined. It's or leadership is defined. It's achieving results through people. And you want to make sure that how your people are achieving results is also based on the values that all of you, even if it's at the very start, even if it's top down, or at least everyone has buy-in for all of
Yes.
those values. And this is how we're prioritizing. This is how we want to do things.
Yes.
So yeah. Yeah, I think for us, especially since we've had our values for the last a year and a half, what I feel really changed for us is even the fundraising that we do. So usually for our anniversary, we do some
Anniversary.
fundraising. Yeah, we try as much as possible that it's still connected to the core values that we have.
Yes.
So I haven't really said all of our core values, but just so everyone knows, it's growth, integrity, excellence, work or balance, and inclusivity. So inclusivity is a big part of what Francis and I want in
Please,
Virtua.
somebody edit what I just did and put the values the way I did. So I also wanted to share one little anecdote that I carry around. So it's not a personal experience, but one that I felt strongly resonated with how I see these core values happen. So one of our clients, this is an anecdote from one of our clients, wherein because inclusivity is also big on their own values. One time they signed up a client, and then it was small voices at first, but we found out that this client who was based in the U.S. signed up another client who was far right leaning. So they're anti women's rights, anti LGBTQ, and pro conservative, pro anti abortion, all of that stuff, right? And to be clear, that clashes so badly with your current values, but it was I found it was also a big contract. But it only took like the voices of a few people, especially the ones who initially, like after closing the sale, was processing the order, etc. And then they found out this is, but do we want to work with this? And it was barely a week's time that that they announced, we're not working with this company. We're canceling the contract. We're canceling the sale. Now, I think that aligns with our topic today, because if you think about it, um, they chose to align with their values. Because again,
Yes.
company growth, it means like if it's a big account, right? If it's a big account, it doesn't matter. Like, do you compromise on, it's okay. They're not us, right? But their values don't align with yours, and they chose to align with their values and said, sorry, we can't work with you. And I thought that was that's a very telling way that a company can live by what they promise. No, there's no bending, no compromise, and maybe someday we'll run into something similar, and we'll be able to make that kind of decision as well.
Yeah. I mean, I hope not, right? I hope not. But
I hope we don't.
because it's gonna
Yes.
be hard. It's gonna be hard because this is already client, right? I think it's very brave of them to do that. It's already client.
Yes.
It's already revenue coming in. Especially,
It was
I can't
signed.
remember because I remember this. I remember this company, but I can't remember if it was one of the startups that we were working with, or it was already a big company that
It wasn't.
one of
It
our
wasn't.
big
It
clients
was.
already.
It wasn't startup.
It was a
So
bigger one, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think I know what you mean.
So
Like if you're a startup, would you have
yeah,
been willing to bend over? But I think
yeah, I
startups
know,
don't.
right?
Do startups have values that?
Of yes, they do.
I'm kidding.
I think most of the yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think most of the time startups, especially the ones who are most of the time like guided, because we see this, right? Like there's incubators, there's and they start off with the vision, mission, and the core values, and then you also have books about how to start a business, and all of these things are always like basic. You need to have this. So as a startup, are you like, can you imagine you're just trying to get your business off the ground and to say no to a client?
Yes.
Like,
That is
right? Like
so. That is
firing a
so
client. Like
hard. Yeah.
that is so, especially now the other question is, are you brave enough to say no if it means it's gonna affect
Your
the
bottom
livelihood of
line.
the people that
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that no, the livelihood of the people that you're with, that you have
Mm.
in your company, because you're already saying no to revenue,
Yes.
or at least profit at this point, right? So I think it's very brave. But then again, once you do understand and you do um, implement, or you implement what you stand for, and you outwardly express that through, I mean, this is one way of doing it, right? Like making sure that all of your clients, all of you are aligned, your vendors, you're aligned as well. Once
Yeah.
you do
No.
take that stand, people will respect you for it.
It is very. No, I completely agree. So I think that's exactly why we say values are important, because nobody's going to look at you and say you're crazy for turning down that goal. You say, look at my values and tell me why I chose to make that decision. I guess in line with that, I want to go ahead and check. So if we think that it's that important, if we think that it's that important,
Hmm.
um, I want to go through some of the step by step guides in defining your company's core values. So um,
Yeah,
you
let's go into
have
that. Yeah.
yeah you have so you have a roadmap for start, because I want to, if I can share. I think before I thought company value, put learning the company values, or the fact of having a company value, I thought it was did you ever feel that? Like, I'm ashamed to admit it now, but I that it was corny, like, "Ooh,
It was
company
all
values, like,
BS.
that it's a bunch of BS." Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie, I used to think that.
Okay, okay. Let's make it a little bit more. I guess uh, PG. It's lip service. It's just writings. It's just whatever, just to
Yes.
say that they have core values.
Hmm.
I think
Little.
when I was an employee, it felt like it was just that.
Yeah. I feel like if I bought into the values, that I was drinking the Kool-Aid, but I realized that in what I wasn't doing is, in fact, to be honest, when the company hires you, they say these are our values. It's not like
Yeah,
these are our values, but feel free not to
not
understand
to
them, because
not to
we're
follow.
paying you to be part of the machine that runs on the values that they're trying to write. So anyway,
Yeah.
I will say, step one, uh, start with your founding beliefs. So founding beliefs most likely would come from the people at the very very top, or the people who made a product responsible, the people who
Yeah.
invented the product or the solution that is to be marketed as a service. So the big question is why, and what problems are you trying to solve, right? What problems are you trying to solve? So take, for example, how a lot of Kickstarter projects now are
Hmm.
I try to go to the Kickstarter programs, and you try to listen. Actually, I do that nowadays. You listen to them and see, can somebody convince me to look at their product and believe it, because sometimes you might not have a need for a product, but you see a founder's belief, and then you're convinced that, okay, I'll support your product. Has that ever happened to you?
Um. Hmm. The founders believe, or like,
Well, let me
I
give that
got it.
example.
Mm.
So, um, let's look at some of the. I'll give you two products, right? Uh,
Mm.
One is, I saw before when people were trying to work on a tablet that felt like writing on paper. So you might have been hit by that ad
Okay.
before, but it's being hit with me now. And when I look at it, I understand there is a market for this, and they're saying, like, it's the convenience of the tablet, because I've tried writing on tablets. It felt like writing on
Yeah.
glass, not fun.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I do from time to time miss writing on notebooks, but then again, with the amount of data that you're writing now, it's just not practical to keep a notebook in hand. You'll pile up with notebooks, right? Like, we're in tech, we understand that I can
I can
dictate a
relate to
thousand
that. I have a
pages,
ton of
and
notebooks.
right, I have a ton of notebooks now, but I'd rather not use them. But they said, I found a solution to give you technology that feels like you're writing on paper. I like that, right?
Hmm.
Have I bought it? Not yet, because I personally, while I like writing on paper, I don't do it enough. But I can see a lot of people being finally a solution to a problem that I'm having. So it might be expensive, but they might be convinced to buy it. The second project, the one that I say I was convinced, is when I was sold into buying ethical tuna.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know. The example that I have in my head is kind of related to this.
You do it then.
I think I think the product that I bought because the values as well is the eco-friendly product. So we have like those cotton pads, those
Yeah.
reusable cotton pads, and it's because I mean even if the packaging is also recyclable and everything, like the values of that company, which is more on the eco-friendly side, sustainability side, also because I also believe in those things in the sustainability side of things, then I started buying the product. So I
Yes.
understand what you mean by what problem are you solving for. Start if you're going to come up with your core values, start with the problem that you're solving for, because what is your product standing for,
Wait. You're saying
right?
eco-friendly, right? You're saying eco-friendly.
Yeah,
So that means that product will not be.
sustainability, eco-friendly.
So that means that product will not be cheap. That product might be. No, no. I'm serious. Like,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
that's the
No,
thing.
yeah.
As a founder now, and you start selling your product, you know what the problem is that you're going to see there. People will come up to you and say, "I like your product, but I wish it was cheaper." Right? But
Mm-hmm.
that's where you have to say, no, you like my product because it's sustainable. And in order to do that, the product has to be of a certain margin. You can compare it to brand X, Y, and Z that is, you know, much
For
cheaper
the
than my
yeah.
product, right? So as a business, you can't listen to the people who are asking for something that, although it's a nice to have, of course, because but that will allow you to compete better with your competitors. Yes, but they're not who I'm competing with, and that allows you to keep uh that allows you to stay in touch with your company's vision and say, no, sorry, it's not because we don't want you as a customer, but because we have to. And there are people who are happily buying it at the cost that we're putting it in.
So step two. So after starting with your founding beliefs, step two is identify what makes your business unique. So what do customers or your employees that's unique about you? What sets you apart from everyone else? And the reason why this is, there's a lot of companies out there, right? And sometimes even your product might be similar to somebody else's, right? But as far as company like startups and companies go, of course, there's always going to be a differentiating factor, and you need to understand what that is. What that is, and sometimes it's not even in the product. Sometimes it's even with how your employees conduct themselves
Mm-hmm.
in the business, right? Like I would say I'm trying to come up with an example, but I'm blanking. Like for example,
Okay,
okay,
well, I will before you, if you want to give yourself a bit of time, I will say
hmm,
that this is probably one of the things that I struggle with a lot, being a very very practical person. Like when they say yes, you need the, what's the word, USP, your unique selling point. And
yeah.
then but then when I think about it, but Mall A and Mall B are both malls. What's unique about that? Or if you have hot dogs, brand A B C D X Y Z, they're kind of all hot dogs. Like, what's the unique selling point? We put pepper in ours. Like, that's silly. but but when you
No,
think,
but if you know, like getting on that malls. Okay, go ahead. Just
no, no,
finish
no,
your thoughts first.
no, that was the other me that's saying, like, why does it have to be unique? Like, in an entire store, in an entire mall, there's going to be restaurant one, restaurant two, restaurant three. Like, are they all really unique? Like, especially in the Philippines when you have shawarma stores, and it's going to be shawarma one, shawarma two, shawarma three. Really? How unique do you have to be, right? But but then again, like I said, that's the pessimist in me, and that's the reason. That's exactly what I was thinking. That is causing a brand to fail, is because they went to a brand and they copied something. But even then, the success of that small business, for example, would depend on something unique to themselves. Like, for example, maybe they said they copied an exact business idea, but they put it in a unique
Mm-hmm.
location, right? No, that's what makes it
Mm-hmm.
different. Mall
Yeah, that's
A,
what makes it.
yeah, Mall A is targeting excess mall. And if I'm not mistaken, if the rumors are to be believed, Mall B builds right beside Mall A because they're saying, don't worry. The rationale is they can't always go to Mall A. So they will, in fact, say, let's change our mind and, maybe tomorrow we'll go to Mall B. Right?
You know
So,
what? I think
yeah.
one example so two malls side by side. One has high end or luxury goods.
Yes.
The other one has more of an affordable
Jologs.
approach. So there's still a difference. Like, yeah, no, not Jologs, but there's still a difference. Even though they're side by side, there's still a difference. Or
Yes.
somebody, was able to see that there's a lot more foot traffic than Mall A can handle. Then let's get a share of that. Then let's build a mall right next to it. Right? But
And
I
there's a reasonable, there's definitely a reasonable, there's a reasonable approach to saying it's high foot traffic. Why don't we build in that area as well? Because like, it's what do you call it? As a catch-all for when, foot traffic for Mall A is too high. Then yes, it will be Mall B. Oh, it's too much. And I think that's the reason why some restaurants actually build side by side, because they're banking on too much. Okay, let's go to the one beside it. Because the interesting thing about that I realized about um you know why restaurants or even clubs. Let's do clubs.
Francis, let's narrow it down. Let's stop on the mall
Okay.
example.
Yeah, but
Let's
that's
just stop on
they're
the
all
mall
the same,
example.
like
It's the same.
businesses who, yeah.
It is the same. Let's stick on the mall
Okay, mall
example,
it is.
and
But
just to bring it back, right?
yeah.
Like just to bring it back to step 2, identify what makes your business unique. And we've talked about differentiator, and even if you're a mall side by side, you need to be different branches or how you service people. Like one mall has a higher end, like concierge, I would say,
And the other one has a
right,
more
than the other one.
self-service and chic. And I
Yeah,
think that's the
could be that,
important
right?
thing. Sometimes when people who do not ascribe to the what makes yourself unique mindset, guys, don't worry. I was that one person who thought makes your business unique. That's BS. But the reality is, sometimes you as the business owner, as the solopreneur, uh, maybe you don't see what makes it unique, right? Maybe you thought, I will make a product and I know how to make the product and I can sell it. And because you've always been too close to it, that you don't understand what makes it unique. So the important thing for you to do is to understand why your business is doing okay, or more importantly, why your business is not doing okay. Which means, as hard as it is to swallow, the thing is, negative feedback, it's always a bitter pill to swallow. But you have to ask for that feedback regardless of what people are going to say. You have to look at it and say, thank you. So what do you think? Or get taste test. And then people goes like, black, it's too garlicky. You're like, oh, okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that feedback. Even though you personally think, but I like the garlicky. It's not about you. No, it's either you go out and talk to 100 people. And maybe that guy was just a fluke. Now you go to 100 people and go, ah. But if 98% of them says, black, it's too garlicky, then you kind of have to take the feedback and say, I need to change the formula in order to, do that. I mean, did you know that that's the reason why a lot of things taste different in different countries? Jollibee. Jesus. Did you know that? Have you tried it? Jollibee in the different
Yes, because I experienced it. Actually, I experienced in different countries,
McDonald's.
so I understand why it's different for each country. And my sister's I guess experiences with KFC. She was in India
KFC.
for 7 weeks, and all of the gravy had all of the spices.
Curry, it had, yes. Somebody told me that.
The
It's not 11 herbs and spices. It's 23 herbs and
But
spices.
anyway, just to second your support your point about, you need to gather that feedback from everyone, right? Not just so Francis is right in saying that sometimes the business owners themselves are kind of blind to what sets them apart. And sometimes it's because it's the business owner that actually sets the business apart. Sometimes. Not
Yeah, no, that's
always,
true.
sometimes.
That's
Right.
true.
But
It's the it's
you do
saying.
need to get
Oh, sorry.
mhm.
No, I was just going to say it's saying that because you have a personal touch, or it's different when you handle our business. So yeah, sorry. I apologize
Yes.
for interruption. I apologize for
Yeah. No, no,
interruption.
no. So anyway, let's go to step number 3. So make values
Yes.
actionable, not just inspirational. So sometimes you see if you go to company websites and you see their core values. Actually, from what I'm seeing right now, like the modern way of doing it, it's more a casual type of how to say things like
You mean
progress over
cash?
process. Yeah. Progress over process, or and sometimes for some companies it's more of a one word thing, like for us, like for example, inclusivity, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes if you're someone new to the company, what does inclusivity mean? Like, what does it actually mean? How um you need to make your values actionable. You need to make it specific and actually give people examples of how it's actually of how it's practiced. And that gives them a better idea of how everyone does things in the company that's aligned with your core values.
No, I totally agree. It's it's because you want to say, uh well, give me a value, something that I right now I can see that we actually do, because it's easy for companies to become, a boys club, for example. And we've always
Mm,
said, it's always easy
yeah.
for a company to become a boys club. But what's harder is to say, um, we want to be diverse and inclusive, and keep to that, because you say, uh, can you look at your hire and make sure that, um, you're looking at every candidate from the perspective of skills and capacity, not because, not because good university, good experience, or, or whatever the old boys club recommendations are. For example, you want to say we are inclusive, but if you see a company that is like 95% male and straight, it's kind of hard to say that you're inclusive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And one of the things that we always have that we say is our core value, because we are outsourced. We're an outsourced business, and I
Yeah.
think 7 years before, 10 years before, we've already tried to live this, because it's what gives people, what's the word, trust, right? It's to say we do the right
Hmm.
thing. The value of integrity is that we do the right thing even when nobody is watching. It's saying I could have done so much with these things. Haven't you ever, done that? Like, maybe if you're in a bank and you're counting all of the money, you said, I could easily just put this in my pocket. Well, I don't know how banks work, but that's, I
Yeah.
imagine that, because in our case, there's a lot of things in regards to data that we really could have done. We were downloading gigabytes and gigabytes of lists, emails that we could have
Mm.
that we could have done something with, but we did not. We lived by that same
Hmm.
value. See, even if you knew that, what, client A doesn't really have that strong sense of security. He gave me, it's a bring your own device. He lets me just work on it.
Hmm.
He's giving me the list like he don't care. And maybe he really doesn't, but he should, right? But you knowing that you're doing the right thing means I will not do this, because once you start doing the wrong thing when nobody's watching, eventually you'll do the wrong thing when somebody will catch you. Again,
Yes.
bow. But
No, no, that's exactly right. Especially in our setup where everyone's working from home. So easy, right? So easy to do something that you're not supposed to do. But because we stand for integrity, then everyone has like Actually, integrity probably is one of the things that came from our customers, if I'm not mistaken. Like we had
Yes.
this set of interviews with our customers and customers before, like what did they think about Virtua and everything,
Yes.
and integrity was one of the things that they did tell us. Like we give you access to our data, and we've never had an incident before, and that's like thank you. It's a big thank you,
It's
right?
nice
But we
to
definitely
hear.
want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're yeah, it's nice to hear, and we definitely want to make sure that even moving forward, anyone that's new in our company aligns with those values, which is actually step number 4: align your core values with hiring and culture. Sometimes it's I mean, in terms of hiring, Francis, um sometimes the what I feel like how to align core values with hiring comes with the set of questions that you ask. Like for
It
example, one of the mhm.
No, it's go with your example. I'm formulating my
No,
response.
I, I remember one of the questions that I used to like I've been asking this question. So I don't know if I wanna divulge that I always ask this question for every single interview that I do, because people listening will know to prepare for this
Mm.
question now. But every single time I had an interview before, one of the questions that I had was what's one thing that you learned in the last 6 months? It could be professional or personal.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that question alone shows that is this person something that is curious and wants to develop themselves, which is
Mm.
very big to me. Especially because sometimes people are not used to your industry yet, right? And that curiosity to me is very important. So I know that I can trust you, that I can trust that you'll go ahead and research on things because you're naturally curious. You do want to develop yourself. So that's one thing that I always ask during interviews. But what do you think, Francis?
No, I personally completely agree. And I think this answer was supposed to come in easier for us because we recently did well, it wasn't even recent, but we did something
Performance.
something similar. No, no,
Yeah.
no. How to align your core values with hiring and culture. Um, I was gonna go to the hiring part, so maybe I should just say that
Mm.
before I lose that. If you remember correctly, we kept saying, how to make sure that you are unbiased in terms of your hiring, because I think that's the most important thing to say. Like, we
Yeah.
want to be you want to be inclusive, which means you have to be consciously aware of your biases.
Yes.
And then we told ourselves, okay, well, we're kind of not hiring people, and we're not the ones doing the hiring anymore. And then that becomes a question
Mm.
of how do we now get our team aligned with the same value that we want. So that it always becomes that thing now. Like we say, oh, we want it to be this. Yes, but we're not the ones implementing it directly. We're the ones saying, you have to be this. And now the question is,
Yeah.
how do we make sure and implement, and that the values are reflected on that. It's kind of hard, if you think about it. It's if you're small to medium business, does it really make sense to say, this is my will, hire inclusive, hire inclusive,
And
but you
sometimes
can
it's
only
hard to
really
spot it during it's hard to spot it during interviews because people will
you,
say sometimes they'll just say what they think you want to hear,
some people are
right? But
serial interview passers. I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie.
yeah, but yeah, it is true. And then of course, a recent experience with people using ChatGPT while being interviewed. So anyway, that's for another story. That was one of the
Totally
horror
under.
stories actually by yeah, but
But you have to give them
just
props
going
for, if you think about it, you have to give them props for being prepared for every solution. But maybe that's also your
that
downfall.
shows
So
being tech savvy or whatever, right?
yes,
but
and I
yeah, but,
think
but just going back aligning. So just going back to aligning the core values with hiring and culture. This year we started doing performance evaluations, and one thing
yes.
that we did differently once we had the core values written down and everything was that in the performance evaluation we actually had a section there of each of the core values that we have,
Mm-hmm.
each of the core values and we have, and we scored everyone in our team. Of course, at this point, Francis and I lead our leaders, right? Like it's the leaders that we manage, but that section is present for each and every performance evaluation that's happening
All the way
with
down.
Virtua. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think that's one thing that you can also do to make sure that everyone lives by those values. What else have we?
Well,
This, what
I
about
want to
decision making?
say,
Do you go
yeah,
ahead?
I want to say, decision making wise, are we guided by our same principles when we say we want to do X? Just for example, like it's hard to, of
Mm,
course, without exposing what we're planning. Am I being unbiased with my decision? Like, just in terms of
mm,
hiring, like how many teams, who to move to a different department, who to promote. You know, Maybe who to promote is a good example. Like, you can't just say I'm looking at this person, I've worked with him the closest. But when you work with people who now have same qualifications, less tenure, but is he more qualified than another person? Those are hard decisions to make. And I pray that when we come across issues like that we're able to step back and say, but is it the right thing? Does it align with
yeah,
our values? Even if because some of the hardest things when things become corporate is people being feeling entitled to a position because of
yeah,
tenure, right? But
yeah.
that's not
Happens. Yeah,
necessarily, and we agreed long before that that's not what we're
yeah.
promoting people for, like merit over
Because you can be
tenure.
technically proficient but not able to manage people,
Yes, but
right? You can
but
be
that
so good at your job.
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's exactly that. You can be so good at your job, but it doesn't mean that you are good in terms of managing people, which means you have to
Mm-hmm.
understand when we say, you need people to lead your team just because you're there the longest and really the best at how can I help you, or have you tried turning it on and off again, doesn't mean that you can manage the day to day, which means that we now the one thing that I love now, that we now have a mentorship and a leadership program, because
Mm-hmm.
not because of merit, but if you tell me that I want to try a leadership role, then we're not just gonna say, okay, here's a leadership role, have at it. No, we now put you in a mentorship and leadership program that says we'll
Yeah.
prepare you for it, and if you try it, actually the thing is, some in other companies, if they fail at moving to a different role, like from team lead to from agent to team lead,
Mm-hmm.
then they resign, right? I want people to know that if you wanted to try having a lead position or a managerial position and you think it doesn't work out, it's okay. Come back to the other role that you came to. We're not there yet, but I know I'm preparing for that. But now, let's say, having said that, you realize that we have all of these ideas. But how do you
Mm-hmm.
make sure that these intrusive thoughts are are what's being communicated there, which brings us to step 5: communicate and reinforce
Mm-hmm.
values daily. Daily, yes, daily. But how do you make sure? Like, I'll put it to you, because I know what they are, but in your own words, how does your how do you make sure that these values are trickled down to the whole organization? Dilig.
Thank you for that wonderful question.
Yes.
I think that's
You're
going to be a
welcome.
forever line in our podcast. But I think what we've done so far is we first off we make sure that during any onboarding, any new hire onboarding, these values are presented. The other thing that I think we also did was during our strategic planning, where everyone is in the internal team was there. We had everyone talk about, okay, so this is our value. What do you think are the actions that that show this value? And so everyone is aligned. We go ahead and do discussions of the values. The other thing that we haven't done yet, but we do plan to do, is during our town halls, is to recognize people who has shown the values that we want the company to embody. So we haven't done that yet. It's always a work in progress. But I do know that in the next town hall that we'll be doing that. What about you? What do you think could we be doing to communicate and reinforce our values more?
Posters.
I mean, if you because we don't have a physical office,
We don't
not
have a
yet
physical
anyway.
office, yes. No, but no, I'm sorry, I was kidding. Um, I mean, when you go to like a bank, for example, you always kind of see those posters that say these are our values, and and the typical like family walking, successful, happy. Those are in fact attempts to tell people on
What the
the day to
values
day
are,
what their
yeah.
values are, and it's kind of hard because we don't have walls to put posters in. But no, but I'm guessing it just has to be you. It kind of just has to be you as well. Like how do you how do you live those values yourself? And every person that you interact with, you conduct yourself in a way that shows those values. And I know that's a really hard thing to do, but remember, if you're working, if you're uh uh if you have your own business, if you're a small business owner, and you think that it's your persona that you have to bring to work, just don't forget there is a work persona that doesn't necessarily have to be you, right? When you're in your business, you're in work mode, right? So you kind of have to set aside, uh, as cliche as this sounds, you set aside the things that make you as a human being, that the frailties and the faults, and you say you treat people fairly, right? You can't come in if you had a bad day, take it one down, you sing a sad song and turn it around. No, when you have a bad day, uh, it doesn't trickle down to other people, right? That's not living. And people aren't supposed to, your team aren't supposed to say, oh, he's having a bad day. We take it head on, right? You understand, like the humanity of being the owner of your own business needs to be left at the door. Of course, it doesn't happen all the time, but the point is, if you remember it from time to time, as much as possible, then you live it. At most, see, that's the difference between businesses who put up the posters and say fairness and equality to all, but do not show it in your day to day. It's a useless tactic, right?
Yeah.
It's a useless tactic.
Yeah.
Even if they say, oh, let's put our values on our website, but nobody does the thing, right? If you say growth, right, but you disapprove all of the training programs that your team uh asks for,
Yeah.
even if it's free. Like, my God, some people I've seen they disapprove the training program that was free because it's to be done on company time, right? Then why did you say growth, right? Then why did you say,
Yeah.
I wish the story that I heard there wasn't they disapproved it. Maybe they're just saying not this time, or maybe let's take this training at a different time, but definitely should be on company time.
If the team members screw with you, right? And now that you've put down the core values that you want, and they're not aligned with it, now what do you do, right? I think first off, you have to get buy-in from everyone what the core values is, because if you don't get buy-in, then of course they're gonna behave in a way that's not aligned with your core values. Now, if there are some actions, right? There are some actions that do not align with the core values. You have to call it out. You have to
Yes.
call it out first. Give them the opportunity to understand and realize that what they're doing isn't aligned with your core values,
Mm-hmm.
and then give them time to kind of change their behavior. Now, if they don't, and you've already called them out, sometimes if you really want to go through the entire process and do performance evaluation and things like that, and they're still doing
Yes.
things that do not align,
Mm-hmm.
then that's where the hard decision comes,
Yes.
that you would have to part ways. And sometimes parting ways is the best for them, because if they want to live a life that's different from yours,
Yes.
just to be very clear, sometimes values, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing something bad already. It's just that you're not aligned. It's not the same. Yeah, their
No,
actions are not the same of how you want things done in your company. So the hard decision comes, then maybe you need to part ways. What about you? What if a team member? What if a team member doesn't align with company values? What then?
if a team member doesn't align with the company values, I believe that as a manager, uh, truth, truth, I need to I think I need to have a frank discussion with that person because
Mm,
I've been there. I've thought that, oh, values. You know how people tend to be dismissive or eye roll when people say, guys, integrity, we do the right thing even when no one's watching, and people just load off. But you realize that problem, that dismissiveness, you can't say, so you don't believe in integrity, right? That's the that's the that's the problem. It's what do you think about this? And I think it's a big red flag when somebody tends to be dismissive of the company values, because like you said, maybe what's best is for people to part ways. I think more
mm,
importantly is that you need to realize that your values do not align with mine, and I will keep pushing my values onto you because you chose to work for this company, right? So you need to decide, does it align? And I think that's a wonderful thing that a lot of people are doing now. You know how what's the word? After the millennials and then after the Gen Z folk, people are
alpha.
now really really harping on the values, because and
Yeah.
believe me, I rolled so hard at this before, which I now am taking back. Which I'm now taking back.
Rolling your eyebrow.
I rolled it back to the front, yes. But why I believe that maybe parting ways is important, because you can't keep pushing people to work for something when the values do not align, right? And like I said,
Yeah.
I respect what I see now when people who are um, now saying, I looked at your company's profile and I value what you value, and I hope I can be considered for that position because I too strive for the same value. So if it aligns, then you know, and then there's a reason for you to say I want to work for you, as opposed to when people are hiring, because I think it's important to take it to the context that as millennials before, you take the job that you can get, and that's the truth of things. But
Yeah.
times have changed. Right now,
Yes, it has.
it's changed so much that I want to believe it even more, that you
Hmm.
can't just work for the money, that you also have to work for something that gives you peace of mind, mental balance, that's something that you believe in, that you can work towards, right? That I believe in making a better future for the earth. That's why I work for a company that strives for for eco-friendly products. I also strive
Hmm.
for mental health. That's why I work for a company that promotes it for their own employees, right? Because I want to be able to come in and say, "Hi, do you need a mental health day?" Not for myself, but for when I see somebody who is struggling, and know that the company, when the company notices that in other people, that they will also say, "Hi, maybe you need a mental health day," and then take a break, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where it aligns now, and I want our company to be
Yeah.
like that, Penny,
Yeah.
every day.
It's like you're making the demand. I want a company to be like that, Penny. But again, very well said, Francis. And I do agree. It's very different nowadays, where Gen Z and Alpha, they're more they look for companies where their values, or what or at least the purpose of the company aligns with their values.
Yes.
And so I want to ask this question to you guys: what if a team member doesn't align with the company values? What should you do? So please let us know. Share your thoughts and comments on share your thoughts on the comments below.
Yeah. Thank you. And hopefully we get to see those stars. And now I believe it is time to just wrap it all up. I think it's been an intense discussion. I didn't think in the beginning that it would be that it would draw a lot out of us. But I'm hoping that the kind of passion that we're bringing into this is because we understand it. So
Yeah.
to recap the insights that we discussed, it's your company's values are basically what define you, regardless of what you think about it, regardless of what you think of the silliness of the idea.
Mm.
It's the values itself that defines the culture, it defines your decisions, it ultimately will define your business success. You did not become successful because of luck. Something happened that made your success now, right? So you're, this is not a happily ever after. You can't call your this is a successful business if your business has not ended. Unless you reach the end part, your business is not exactly a success. It can fall if you don't realize what are the things that is making your business a success now. So it's important for you to identify it, define it, and keep at it.
So if you haven't written down your core values yet, or your company values yet, one tip that we can give you is to start listing three things that matter to you, matter to your business, and then right next to it why it
Why?
matters to you. Why?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because,
that's one tip that we can give.
yeah, because remember, defining your core values is just the beginning. It's just you live them day to day. It's
Yeah.
what truly sets your business apart. So,
Yes.
yes.
So yes, you write them down, make sure that everyone understands how these values are supposed to appear, or how everyone is supposed to act based on these values, and then reinforce through employee recognition, through leadership reinforcement, and all of those things. And speaking of values, we'd love to hear from you. What's one company whose values you admire? Please share your thoughts to the comments below.
And also, while we're at it, if you could define your company's culture in one word, what would that word be? Drop your answer in the comments.
That's it for today's episode of Business, but the conversation doesn't end here.
Let us keep the buzz going. Please, please, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Send us your thoughts. We will talk business.
And remember, you can find BizNest on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and YouTube, so you can listen anytime and anywhere.
Until next time, keep building, keep learning, and keep making your mark.